Hey guys, how are you? Let me see. I'm trying to. Can you see me better with it or without the light? Let's do it that way. Sorry, it's so bright. Okay, so first off, can everybody hear me okay? You hear me okay? Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, so the way tonight is going to work, I am recording tonight's session. I will send it out to everybody in the class. So you're going to have a recording if you're the Trump group or the media group that's presenting. You will have a recording of this evaluation or how the presentation goes. So don't worry about taking notes. Don't worry about the evaluation part of it. If you're not presenting tonight, so you're from another group or you're from the media group and you don't have a part to play tonight, I definitely would recommend taking some notes, only because it'll make it easier when you go do the student speech critiques that'll be due the following week. Now, if you're talented enough and you can take notes and kind of participate, which is what I'm going to do, then you're welcome to do that. But I just want to give you the idea that if you want to just not have any stress about kind of trying to make sense or watch the presentation, there will be a video that'll be posted after tonight. I'll probably send them out all at the same time after Thursday's presentation. You'll just get an email with all of the different links. Okay, so first off, is there any questions from the group? This is a little better. Any questions from anybody?
I just have to share my screen.
Okay, perfect. It is set up to share screen. So when your group starts, then the media group will start first. They'll do kind of the welcome, and there'll be a conclusion at the end by the media group. So they'll kind of set the stage for you guys to start, and you'll have time before I start, setting the timer or anything. So don't worry about that. Just whenever they say, please welcome the Donald Trump group or whatever, then you'll know that you have time to share the screen before you guys start talking. All right, perfect. Okay, so if you are in the space and can have your camera on, please do so. If you're in a space where you can't have your camera on, then please don't. But if you can have your camera on, that will help because it makes it look like a live audience. All right, so I will let the media group start.
Okay. Today we'll be hearing from former President Donald J. Trump. How will Trump do in his second presidential election? New term, different choices. Trump attended an anti-abortion rally and gave a speech, and I quote, "We are here for the simple reason to defend the rights of every child, born and unborn, to fulfill God's given potential, to remain anti-abortion, with very few exceptions, that and has openly spoken on his pro-life stance. In his first presidential term, Trump administrations were able to complete hundreds of miles of the wall along the southern border. Before President Joe Biden halted construction days into his presidency. Trump wants to continue on building of the wall to prevent illegal immigrants and any drugs to be trafficked into the United States. Trump also wanted to provide federal grants for further training for police officers after there has been many police brutalities being surfaced. Will there be any riots in the White House this election? Don't forget to vote and let your voice be heard.
All right, with that being said, I want to talk about the voting process and what it means. Voting contributes to the democratic process. It's often referred to as our civic duty. The act itself represents American history. It was a freedom that so many generations fought for. Every time you vote for somebody, you represent your ideals and your interests. Every election drives change, no matter how small, and it is an opportunity for you to be a part of history. With that being said, just like we said in our Media Day presentation, scream it, say it aloud, vote for the person who makes you proud.
Hey, I just want to say really quickly, please make sure that you have your mics muted. It sometimes helps with the bandwidth if everybody is muted who's not speaking. And just remind yourself before you speak to hit unmute. Ethan, was that the introduction for the Donald Trump group? Are they starting now?
Oh, yeah, Esmeralda's was, but I was just talking about voting. But yeah, now it's time for the Donald Trump group.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So Daniela, there you go. Perfect.
So everyone that is a part of the United States all want a fair and equal president, right? Well, most people do. Only the ones that care about the government and politics would say yes. But there are many people that do not really care about politics and just go with the flow when electing a president. Which is why you may consider voting for Donald Trump, because if you don't know what you want, if elected, he will do many big impacts to the United States, not just helping one person, but helping millions, even helping you. In this presentation, we'll be going over jobs, tax cut, student loan forgiveness, poverty, and war.
Can you imagine what's 3 times more than the government experts' projection? That was the 7 million jobs that Trump created in his administration. I'm going to explain why Trump is the best candidate for creating and securing jobs. I will go over created, records, and achievements. Not only did Trump create the 7 million new American jobs, he also created 1.2 million manufacturing and construction jobs. He immediately withdrew from the Trans-Pacific Partnership because it was a total job killer. He set a record in building the strongest American economy ever. The median household income rose to the highest level in 2019, and poverty hit an all-time low, including poverty for minorities. Unemployment for women also hit its lowest rate in 70 years, and unemployment for minorities, people with disabilities, and without high school diplomas also hit record lows. Trump had many achievements, and he achieved a record-setting comeback by rejecting blanket lockdowns. He put policies to bring back supply chains from overseas, and he also secured historic trade deals to defend American workers. This shows that Trump is the best candidate for creating and securing jobs. Trump has demonstrated that he's the best candidate by delivering a future of greater promise and opportunity for citizens of all backgrounds. Trump once said, "In the end, you're measured not by how much you've undertaken, but what you finally accomplished."
Starting off with a quote, "Our world has seen more than enough conflict. If there is a chance at peace, if there is a chance to end the horrible threat of nuclear conflict, then we must pursue it at all costs. The people of America, the people of the Koreas, and the people of the world deserve a future of security and of peace. Donald Trump. Emphasis on the security and peace from the quote, "Genuine peace makes life worth living." Peace empowers men and countries to fabricate a better life for kids and families. We know Donald Trump as the 45th President of the United States. Trump is one of our past few presidents who has never started any wars. He has only ended them. For example, back in 2018, Donald Trump traveled to North Korea in person to see a denuclearization agreement signed. This put a stop to any nuclear conflict, and it was a huge turning point for America and for countries that surrounded North Korea, especially after Korea had personally threatened one of America's territories, Guam. This treaty ended any further nuclear testing. Trump had sought to end this with peace instead of war, which further proves his position. His position being, Trump has proved that he wants peace by pulling out of bad treaties and engaging our enemies in talks rather than wars. Trump in the past has made it clear that he does not like endless wars, which is mostly directed towards the terrorist organization ISIS. Within his past 4 years of presidency, Trump managed to defeat the terrorist organization. ISIS has been unable to rebuild its political and economic structure and no longer poses a threat to America. Leading into the military, something of which Trump feels very strongly about. He has worked strongly to bring troops back from wars, such as Afghanistan. After the events of 9/11, a tragic event in American history, America has since sent troops to Afghanistan since 2001. America has launched attacks against this terrorist group, Taliban, who were responsible for this 9/11 incident. Donald Trump's full intent in the past was to bring home troops and soldiers from this war, a war that has been going on for 20 years. According to this graph shown here on the slide, stated by BBC News, shows that troops have declined since Trump took presidency in 2016. Trump cares about his military and about his people, and always will put America first.
Poverty has always been a problem for years to come, and it still is nowadays, but it has changed a lot while Donald Trump was our president. First off, starting off with signing the Reducing Poverty in America by promoting opportunity and economic mobility. Trump also favors mandatory requirements for social welfare programs. Some issues that Trump will focus mainly on would be jobs, which he kept interest rates low and also introduced a series of tariffs due to the job growth and drop in unemployment rate. He also made housing affordable by proposing a drastic cuts to some housing benefits that has helped millions of low-income seniors, people with disabilities, families with children, veterans, and other people that are in need of housing in an $8.8 billion affordable housing cut. Trump in 2016 also suggested raising the minimum wage from $7.25 to $10, which would help quite a bit. Trump also signed the Strengthening Career and Technical Education, which provides federal support to state and also local secondary education.
Every year as Americans, we need to file for taxes. We always hope to pay less taxes on everything, no matter what it is, or receive money back when filing. Thanks to Donald Trump, he passed a massive bill known as the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which went into effect January 1st, 2018, and will continue into 2025. This bill cuts individual, corporate, and estate tax rates. The Tax Cut and Jobs Act lowered the income tax rate, especially for the higher income Americans. It also lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. For example, the standard deduction was doubled from $6,350 in 2017 to $12,000 in 2018. Another example was the child tax credit. It went from $1,000 to $2,000 in 2018, a whole $1,000 increase. This tax cut has led into an economic boom, which resulted in more jobs, rising income. Thanks to this tax cut that Donald Trump passed, It resulted in record low numbers of unemployment. This was before COVID hit. The Tax Cut and Job Act also increased the minimum wage. Nearly everyone in America is affected by these tax changes, although it affects the way that's either personal or business situations. Donald Trump has proven to want to help Americans out. The tax cut has not only helped the wealthy, but also the middle and lower class. There are so many issues that have already proven that he has solved. One major has been student loans.
So to take into consideration that student loan forgiveness right now is taxable income, and an article written by Robert Farmington called Trump Student Loan Forgiveness gives a really good example of this. So let's say that you are given $50,000 from student loans and you earned a total of $30,000 from working during that tax year. Instead of being taxed only on what you earned, which would be the $30,000, you would be taxed from the $50,000, the loans, and the $30,000, coming to a total of $80,000 for that year. Now, on top of that, students who are discharged for a death or total and permanent disability were disqualified from aid programs that would have helped pay the total amount, and they have to pay that out of pocket. So the total, like the $80,000. But with Trump's tax plan called Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, those students, the ones discharged for a death or total and permanent disability, and their family will not face a tax burden. And he also directed the Secretary of Education and the Secretary of Veterinarian Affairs for this to be automatic for veterinarians who qualify. Not only that, but there are just as many as students who take out loans. There are parents who take out loans in the name of the parents for their children. And those parents are considered the plus loan parents. There is a current lifetime limit, but there is no limits for the plus limit. And the plus stands for part of the federal direct student loan program offered to parents of at least half-time students, graduate students, or professional students. These loans have no limits for those parents or those graduates, which leads some borrowers to having over $1 million in student debt. But the proposition that Donald Trump proposed before his first presidency was to alleviate some of those debts. And this would cause protection for the borrowers and lower the aggregate cost of higher education. Now, to focus on critiques with Martin Luther King Jr., hypothetically, if he was still alive, Martin Luther King Jr. as a candidate would have some flaws in his campaign. To start with, the donations would not be enough to fund him. His campaign managers listed that his friends would be able to organize something to fund him because they said that they have the same talent in organizing, but none of those names were provided. And they would probably have the same outreach as Martin Luther King Jr., which if it was dated back then, it wouldn't be too much. They also listed crowdfunding, and the success rates of crowdfunding nowadays, as of December 2021, is 39.7%, published by an article called Statistica Research Department. And if this was set in the 1960s, it would be even less because they do not have the same technology or the digital advancement that we do nowadays. And in 1966, a Gallup poll was found that almost 2/3 of Americans had an unfavorable opinion of Dr. King, written by Beatrice Dubai. And not only does this also support that he would not have enough people supporting him, but the crowdfunding technology would not be enough. Their campaign managers listed too many goals with little to no donors for King to be successful. One of the goals was no more needless war, equality for all, stance against war and political dominance over many third world countries. And this will probably never happen because the United States in its entire history has always been in war. So it's very difficult for it to be outside of war, even if they just support war. And an anti-imperialist policy and police policy, which would also be super difficult without the correct funding.
Talk about a disastrous failure. Michelle Obama's 2010 Let's Move healthy eating program was a total flop. Obesity rose from 68% in 2008 to an alarming 71.2% by 2016. Children went to supersizing their value meals to smaller lunch sizes and bland food. It was a total disaster. Don't expect Kamala Harris to keep any promises. She has an extensive record of being inconsistent. She is considered a sellout by many. She said she would get rid of private health care only later to support private health care. During her leadership in California, there was a surge in minority incarceration. She said she supported re-imaging public safety bill funding for social services, job training, and mental health, then declined the bill, saying it was not her responsibility. She has constant stands changing on her stance for the criminal justice system. One day she's for something, the next day she's against something. So once again, don't expect Kamala Harris to keep her promises.
This is why we believe you should consider voting for Donald Trump. If you want an honest and trustable president, vote for Trump. Like he says, promises made are promises kept. He's proven to us that he can fix the issues that we have been dealing with. We discussed all job increase we've had, how we benefited from tax cuts, the loan forgiveness to help our students out, and not to mention the two big issues that we have today, which is poverty and war. These are all great, important topics that need to be considered when voting for a president. Everyone that is a part of the US wants a fair and equal president. So go Trump.
And these are our references.
Now that we've taken a look at what Trump says he can do, media team is monitoring the differences between each candidate. And right now, we're just taking a look at the fact that Trump's first candidate goals, when he was president first time, he did make tax cuts, and he did help create the job economy and boosting jobs and making more people. Trump was a candidate who did things in action. He was one of those who was more bolder with his choices, like with his decision with North Korea. He did get a lot of negative feedback for that, but ultimately he did get the job done. Trump is the presidential candidate. People like him, but those that don't say he's not a very good candidate. Overall, we've seen what he did in the first election, and we could just hope Trump does better for the next election. And just to think, what will you think Trump will do this second election? Do you think he'll be a good candidate for the second election? And how far do you think he'll even get? And if he holds office, will he do better this time, or will it be worse than the first round? Only who will know? The voters and who they vote for.
All right, so that's our first presentation. I did see some team members from other groups here. So thank you for showing up. I would, if I was that person, make sure that I am taking notes, not only on the Trump team, making sure that you're kind of talking about what worked, what needed improvement. It's good if you put the names down. Everybody's name was in there, but I will make sure that I provide an outline whenever I post the video. Today we had Esmeralda, Ethan, and Sarah from the media group. And then in reference to the group that went for Trump, we started off with Kyler. Then we went to, is it Machete? Am I saying it right?
Mache,
Mache, sorry.
like paper mache. That's all right.
I love how it looks. So Mache, I love it. Abigail, and then we had Kyler again, Veronica, Daniela, and then Mache was again before the conclusion, and Veronica did the conclusion. So again, I'll send that out when I send the video link, but you guys did a great job for the first presentation. And I will be grading and posting all of that by next week, early next week, whenever we're turning in our evaluations. All right, any questions about anything else or how things are going to go next? All right, so our next two presentations are on Wednesday. We have none tomorrow. So on Wednesday, we have a presentation at 12:30, and then we have another one at 8:30, and then our Thursday one is at 10:30. So again, I'll be giving like a, hey, jump online if you want to watch these live presentations. But if you don't watch them live, then make sure that you're watching the recordings, because that's how you'll be able to give your feedback. All right, go have a good night. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.